Greetings, everybody. Omega Tafarai here, back at you on UUC TV. You know how we do it. Today is a very special day. Today is the 11th September 2024 in the Gregorian calendar. However, we are celebrating New Year's today in the Ethiopian calendar. Today marks the first day of the Ethiopian calendar. Very special day for our people on the African continent. And another thing, I have two special guests with me today, and I'm going to allow themselves to introduce themselves to us on this beautiful African holiday, Enkutatash, meaning New Year's in Ethiopia, in Amharic language. Am I correct?
Yes.
We give thanks. God bless.
Yes, I am.
My brothers.
Blessed love. Greetings to everyone out there. My name is Dogozo from Fosloas. I'm blessed to be here. It's a brand new day, a blessed day that Jah created for I and I. So I'll be glad and rejoice in it. I give thanks. Blessed love.
We give thanks.
Blessed Lord, Rastafari, give thanks, my brethren. Yes, my name, Papa Echo, spelled
Yes,
H-E-K-A-U.
Yes,
Ancient traditions, it means words of power.
Words of power.
Yes, we are here in Ekurhuleni. Blessed to be here. Blessed
Yes.
to be in this company of ones and ones.
Yes.
Truly a special moment, and we would like to wish a highly blessed, holy day.
Yes, yes.
For ones and ones, it's holy in that sense that we need to celebrate it in its fullest. You know?
Yes.
And I think the conversation today will give us a reason why.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, I feel that we have to dive into it, because we're in the Gregorian calendar,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
However, in Ethiopia today is 2017.
Right.
Which is the
yes.
first day of the calendar.
That's
And correct me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, it's called Enkutatash in Amharic,
We know it like that, yes.
meaning
Yes,
gift of jewels,
There you go.
right?
Yeah.
So do you think it is important for all African people on the African continent to celebrate this day?
Absolutely. I think perspective is important, first and foremost, to say what makes a day like this important, I think you put it nicely when I say there's a Gregorian calendar and then there's the ancient Ethiopian calendar,
Right.
which people say is behind but is on time actually.
Right.
And if the Ethiopians are the people who can trace their time back to the first moment, if you like, It's not one of those calendars that you'll find that there's been a chopping and changing, a shifting, and a kind of patching,
Right.
which we know to have happened with the Gregorian calendar, because we know in 1582 already there are days that were lost in the calendar because when the seers had to look into it, they saw that somehow, we are out of time. We being the Roman
Right.
Empire at the time.
Right.
So the point there is that they had to do things to try and match time, to get on top of what they have come to call the proper timing of it. Certainly, that never happened in any of the in the Ethiopian calendar. So it really is it spans the time, right back to Adam, so to speak.
Right, right.
So it's good to have that preamble right up front, because then that kind of says to us that it is more ancient and it is probably the one that we need to use, we can rely more on, because it has not been tampered with. So the key thing is that we need to work with the astronomical basis of time,
Right.
And now that speaks to why is it that we are saying New Year in September when people are used to it happening on the 1st of Jan, according to the Gregorian calendar.
Exactly.
So those are the conversations to be had, you know.
Exactly. So, in the young generation right now, are they even aware of a Ethiopian New Year 2017? Are they aware?
Well, for the eye, I'll have to say a majority is not aware of that, basically. But hence, we are here to inspire and tell them about this information so that they know and they get to be traced back to history, because history is a key element to ourselves, basically. And when I was told about this, I made sure that I got to research about it more and more and more. And then that's only when I started to understand that Ethiopia was never colonized, basically, and it stayed true to its origin and its calendar. So we adopted the Gregorian calendar, and in this way, that's the way that we got lost, and we need to trace back to our history and remember in those days the whole continent was not called Africa, it was called Ethiopia. So in a basis, all I can say is that we are Ethiopians and we should start acting like one, basically.
Right. I get a sense of originality. I get a sense of we have to look at our own, right? So do you think it will benefit us to focus more on originality and finding out what is not colonized?
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like the Ethiopian calendar is not colonized, if I can say, you know?
Essentially, yes.
So,
yes.
yeah.
I mean, our roots and our origin really is an important factor, you know, because if we don't know our roots, we'll never really know our fruit, you know, meaning where we are coming from is important in terms of where we are going. You
Exactly.
know? And where we find ourselves right now is not a beautiful place, you know, as Africans, continentally, internationally, you know. So there's a lot of work to be done. And that work starts with really work that speaks to self, you know. Our true selves, our true self needs to come through. It needs to be truly present in this
Right.
time, you know. And to be present is to know, and to know is to search and to seek. The I speaks about research, you know. Research is two words, is re and search, you know, which basically means you have to view and review this thing. Because oftentimes there are perspectives that are presented and they are not really the true perspective. So that's where the first kind of piece of work needs to start, you know, to uncover these that are the true perspectives.
Right.
So I think that's the essence of really what they are saying there, to say, to really get to understand who we are is the first thing we need to do, you know. Not hearing our stories being told by someone else.
Right.
To be able to tell our own stories, we really need to have to listen to ourselves a little bit more, you know, and to seek and search and find out really who we are, away
Right.
from what media and pop culture is saying. You know?
Right.
Yeah, man.
Right. Because I like what you said, that this is why we're finding ourselves in the space that we are right now, which is not really a positive kind of a space, right?
Sure.
And I like to focus on the young ones, you know. What do you think we can do, you know? Just maybe the three of us, if we had to say, okay, we are capable of helping the youths out there to help them find out, you know, where they come from, so they can know where they're going. You know, like the brother just said, you have to know where you come from, you know, so you can know where you're going, you know.
Yes, to make the youths aware about where we are going and what we want for them, all we have to do is go to schools, basically.
Right.
Every school, and educate them and make workshops once a month, educate them about our history, because history is something that is not being told in schools and stuff. So schools need to try a lot to educate the kids about their history. And for us, as we are growing, we should start making sure that our youths and everyone, even the elders, some of them are not even aware that it's a new year today. So we should start by them so that it goes gradually to the youths every day on a
Right.
daily basis.
Exactly. Right. I also, legend says that the Queen of Sheba, Makeda in Amharic, when she returned back from Jerusalem, back to Ethiopia, her followers invited her, welcomed her
Yes.
with gifts of jewels, hence the name Enkutatash, because Enkutatash means gift of jewels, right?
Oh, nice.
Right. So I feel, it looks like that it's a celebration time.
Yeah.
Looks like families come together and go to church, do special things together, right? Do you celebrate on this day?
Yeah. So I think for me, the perspective that I'm talking about relates to the days of the year
Right.
and what the year looks like in its entirety and the patterns that we see in the year. To say the year has got 4 seasons,
Right.
right?
Right.
And those 4 seasons are very much like how the day kind of unfolds. If you think about it, the sun rises in the morning, it peaks at midday,
Right.
it sets in the west around
Right.
afternoon,
Right.
and then it goes to midnight, and then it continues the cycle again.
Right.
But the year operates quite like the same way if you come check it out. That morning is like spring because it's the beginning of the year,
Right.
where everything was dead in the winter and it's only beginning to spring forth. So that's why we're calling it spring, right? Because things start to spring forth when they were dormant and kind of hibernating or dead, if you want to call it that. So spring is very much like sunrise, yes? And summer kind of speaks to midday times.
Okay.
And then your afternoon is your autumn, and your winter now becomes your midnight.
Right. Right.
So we speak about 4 moments of the sun. Now, this is the ancient tradition, right? Straight coming out of the south with the Congo tradition and all of the ancient traditions that our forefathers and mothers have preserved so well.
Right.
And they say that you got equinoxes and solstices in the year. So those are the 4 important moments of the sun in the year that correlate with the 4 moments of the sun in the day. So that the solstices, they speak to the winter and the summer. So you have a winter and a summer solstice. And then you have a autumn and a spring equinox. So the spring equinox then becomes your morning for the year then. So that's why then the year starts in September, because we get spring in September.
Exactly.
So in the south, you see. Because then that becomes an important thing that says to us, it's not an arbitrary thing. The 1st of January is close to peak summertime. That cannot be the beginning of the year. So the year begins very much like the sun starts during the day in the morning. How you can see the sun is out, but the weather is not it's not as hot because it peaks only at midday. Same way that midday is actually corresponding now to the summer solstice. So there's that 1-to-1 correspondence. The same way that midnight would correspond to the winter solstice. So we need to explain these words because this knowledge is only just returning because after, of course, colonization, apartheid, and slavery, it's a tripartite alliance of wickedness that we still have to overcome completely, So that work starts with this kind of perspective that we are saying. It only makes sense to follow natural order, you see, to determine what time it is. And natural order has to do with the movement of the heavenly bodies. So the sun is the biggest of them all. So it tells us, first and foremost, before we can even consider the other ones. As a result, then, there's this thing of a tropical year, which is really the year as determined by the movement of the sun and completing its circuit, you see. So then that becomes an important thing. I mean, then that knowledge becomes fundamental
Right.
to understand that why it is that we are celebrating New Year in September to begin with, instead of January, which we are saying has no relevance in terms of the movement of the heavenly bodies and the shift in, like how you see in the morning, is daybreak. So there's a shift from darkness to light, you know, the same way that there's a movement from death to springing forth of life one more time. And so it makes sense. So that's why we say the place to go is to go back to the teachings of the ancients, to go back to the Medu nature, you know, which is really telling us about the underlying principles of natural law, you know, of natural order, so to speak. Instead of us putting in an artificial thing and fixing things that are not fixed. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So there's a lot of work to be done still.
Right. So it's like it's another sense of beginning.
Absolutely.
Hey,
Yeah, man.
beginning. So do you also see the sun as being so important at this time, in this time that we are in now, the rising of the sun?
Yes, the rising of the sun is very important for us because it tells us that a brand new day is beginning, and also it tells us that we should start deciding on what's to come up about on our day, because our day is beginning and the sun is beginning with us. And at the same time that life is a different thing that we should live with, basically. Yes, that's all.
Exactly. Right. So what are some traditional foods and activities that we can partake in this day? You know, I would like to know so I can start preparing for my next Enkutatash, you know?
Yes. No, you know, it's, again, natural law and order dictates, you know, because the natural way would say that there are certain foods that are available only at a certain time, you know. And coming out of winter, clearly the cuisine is different from high noon, you know.
Right.
So, I mean, we're going to have to be cognizant. And I think that's where the whole thing to follow is exactly there. So the biggest tradition for us here in the South, you know, we have a very important seed that we work with, which we are saying connects with our roots and our origin, you know. And that seed is what is popularly known as sorghum.
Sorghum.
Yes, it's a brown little seed.
Right.
We call them mabele, mabele being the plural.
Right.
Singular is libele.
Okay.
Now it's interesting why we need to bring that up, because that now relates to our roots in the sense that when you listen to the Dogon tradition, which is in Mali, which is interesting, you would think that the people in the south and the people in the north west don't have a connection. But we are, as I'm saying, the frameworks are the same. The story says that we come from a system called Sirius, okay, which is actually a binary star that we are in a kind of a dance with as a solar system. So they're saying that the sun actually moves around. It has a connection with this Sirius. They make a loop of sorts.
Right.
So in a way, it's not static, this thing. When you study the solar system in school, they say that the planets are rotating around the sun or orbiting the sun. It's true, but that whole system is moving at the same time. it's got a forward trajectory, a kind of an elliptic path that it is following, which is the path they don't tell us.
Right.
Because they are relying on a certain model, right? Which is part of what we are saying, to say these matters of solstices and equinoxes have been pushed out of the curriculum because when you want to control a people, you cannot allow them certain knowledge. Otherwise, they will question what
Exactly.
you to say. Now, why is it that we have 1 Jan as the first day of the year?
Exactly.
When the spring equinox happens sometime in September. Do you understand the point? So the point then is that we need to understand that there is a helical model of the solar system, which means that the planets are chasing the sun around Sirius. So as they are turning like this, the whole thing is moving forward. So it means actually they are going on a helix,
Right.
like the DNA.
Right.
You see how it moves.
Right.
So that's why in the north we used to speak about a helical rising of Sirius.
Right.
Sirius being the star that we are saying is in a binary relation with our solar system. So if you go to the Giza necropolis, that's why the 3 pyramids are not sitting on a straight line, they are more like on a curve.
Oh.
It's to map that helical rising. So it so happens that Sirius, they call it potolo. Potolo is this seed that I'm talking about.
Oh.
Which is interesting because then how do you say it's a seed? Well, it is a seed from where we are. It's just a little tiny drop in the night sky. You see. But I'm saying this because in our tradition we say mabele mabele rabat. Now that word is a play, it's an alliteration that says Robelera is to give birth actually. But somehow that word is connected to giving birth, mabele. So we are connected to Sirius as our origin over a period that spans thousands of years in terms of us going in this forward and backward move. So they say the closer we get to Sirius, the higher the consciousness rises, and there's that in and out. But I mean, that's a topic for another. The point here is that the sister is asking about the cuisine. I'm saying there's a staple that will be staple across the seasons.
Yes.
And it is this that connects us to our roots.
Okay.
Lebele, mabele.
Yes.
This seed, this sorghum that is the basis of our food.
Right.
But it is also used to make natural drink.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I heard that I mentioned the Dogons, right?
Yeah.
From Mali, right?
Yes.
And I know that. So what are you trying to say that we are connected to nature because the Dogons, they read the stars, and by reading the stars, they can tell us the events that's going to happen or that
100%.
will come, right?
100%.
And it's now the 11th of September. It's the ending of the rainy season in Ethiopia.
There you go.
And it's the rising of the sun again. So what are you saying? You're saying we are connected to the whole solar activities?
Yes, absolutely. No doubt. We can't escape it. We don't even have a choice.
We can't escape it.
Yeah, man. It's like we are on this ride, for 1,000 years.
Sure.
On this as the planets are chasing the sun around Sirius, we are on this joyride.
Right.
Right. And it's a ride to really be cognizant of and to recognize its importance, Because, I mean, that's why you've got astrology and stuff to say the heavenly bodies affect you regardless.
Right.
Think about the sun. If the sun were to take a break for 3 days, precisely.
Sure.
Okay.
Right.
It will be hell on earth.
Definitely.
Literally,
Yes.
So, but what astrology is telling us is that it's not just the sun. All the other heavenly bodies have an influence just by their proximity to where we are, And there's no other way. I mean, if we are in a room as different individuals, we affect each other's aura. one way or another. You know what I mean? Whether we want it or not, you know. So that's why when you're alone, you kind of act differently from when, it's not because there are things you don't want to do, you will not do in public necessarily. But it's just your aura and how it spreads itself, you know, in space, you know.
So we are connected.
So we are definitely connected. So I think the thing with the Dogon is that they capture for us now that knowledge that has been hidden for the longest time. They were able to preserve this much more and protect it, you know, with their lives and culture and way of life, more than many other societies have been able to, you know, in the wake of apartheid, colonialism and slavery, you know. They had to go to some of the places where people don't want to go to and to go settle there just because this knowledge is so important, you know. And for Western science to only discover the things that they have known for so long, only recently, puts paid to this, the importance of this knowledge. And that in the reawakening now, as we wake up as a species even, more than just Africans, you know, these can become points of verification to say, indeed, you know, we are more ancient than this.
Right,
you know, our grandeur is much more brighter than what it has been made out to be. You know, so they become an important reference point. They themselves are a living encyclopedia. You know.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we can go on about that, but my point is that they have mapped out the movement of the heavenly bodies, not just within the solar system, because Sirius is not part of the solar system, as we have said. The solar system is married to Sirius based on this precession of the equinoxes, as they call it. And now we are here being able to speak about this with confidence because the Dogons have preserved this knowledge and they've been able to share it with the world through the people that they allowed to have access to them, you know.
Right. So with Enkutatash, right? So as we can see that it's got to do with changing of the seasons, it's the rising of the sun, and my brother was mentioning the Dogons and so forth, because I know they read the stars, you know, to be able to tell us what activities could take place and stuff like that. And then we have the pyramids that's aligned a certain way because they are also connected to, or, you know, underneath certain stars, if I can, aligned with certain stars, if I may say, right? So all this knowledge of astronomy and stuff like that, do you think it's important for our educational system to include that into our curriculum?
Yes, it is, because every information is important, basically. Because if you exclude information from people, that means you are basically telling them what to do. You are telling them what to do, and you are giving them instructions. You're not giving them options. So every information is important. It's up to an individual if they accept it or not. Yes, that's my point of view about the astrologies, because I'm not into astrology that much, but I go into it sometimes. But it's amazing what you can learn from it.
Exactly.
The sun itself, the moon.
Exactly.
So for me, I feel like if you want to do it, if they want to put it, they should. But for each and every learner, if they wanna take it, they should take it. But for the educational system, they should also just put it in.
Exactly. It's because it's more about our history. It's more about our ourselves, you know, knowing ourselves, you know.
Yes.
So I don't know if you had any celebrations that you experienced with on Enkutatash. If you have, what was those special experiences? If not, what is it that you would, how would you celebrate that day with your family, you know?
Oh, well, firstly, I celebrated it, maybe it's probably twice, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yes, at Heritage.
Right.
Heritage. Firstly, it was 2021
Right.
after COVID-19. Yes, we sat there. We read the Bible.
Okay.
We read the Bible. We read Genesis from chapter 1 to chapter 2
Right.
because that was the introduction of the creation of the world
Right.
itself. From there, we ate food. It was
You
iron
want to share what
food.
type of food you were eating? Because it looks like this celebration has got to do with good food, you know? It's happy times. It sounds like happy
Yes.
times, you know?
Yeah, gathering time.
We had some music.
Right.
We had some, based on the food, basically, it was raps, as usual.
Right. Herbs.
Raps.
Reps.
Yes.
I had one the other
We had
day.
one. Yes,
Awesome.
yes. That was the food that we ate. And we had some chakalaka, hot sauce, and we have some cabbage and spinach. And then that was basically it. And then last year we had it again.
Right.
But this time the theme was about mothers and children. So mothers were there with their children. Each mother had to bring their children and they had to bring a gift for their children. And then we had some jumping castles for the children to play. And that's all. And then all that happened was for the mothers to enjoy and mostly for the kids to feel that day, basically.
Right.
Because we celebrated it on Saturday. It was a Saturday that day. Yes.
Right. Wow. We must. Please do invite us
There'll be
next
more,
time.
certainly, yes.
Yes. When we speak about children and holidays like Enkutatash, the Ethiopian New Year, like we know now that Ethiopia still keeps the original history before colonization, right? As we know, Ethiopia was never colonized.
Give
right?
thanks for that.
Which means the culture, everything, the essence is still original. So it kind of, I get a sense that it's an arrow kind of trying to show us that, there's the beginning, Ethiopia. Focus more on that history, on that when it comes to religion, culture, know. I get a sense that we can still find pureness within that Ethiopian culture. Do you think that it is highly important for us as parents or just to educate the children on Ethiopia? And what is it that we can explain to them? Because when you speak about Ethiopia, people think you're just speaking about that region. But then I was also saying that the whole of the African continent was called Ethiopia before colonization.
So certainly, knowledge is power, and power is what we need right now more than anything else, And definitely, to teach the youth is the place to start. And it must start from us as their parents, before we even before they can even go out into the world, to get taught by other teachers that they inevitably will meet in life, But we need to be purposeful about it from our own backyard, to really guide and to show. Because, like I say, there's a lot that is in the curriculum right now, and yet there's not enough.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Not enough in the sense of the appropriate knowledge that is relevant for the youth, especially in this time now. You hear people talking about we are third generation, fourth generation, this and that, owners of this and that.
Yeah.
And we are third generation, fourth generation, recipients of atrocity for years, for days,
Yes.
And to turn that around, we have to be deliberate about it. It's not going to happen of its own accord. So the first thing is knowledge. So our education system needs to be tailor-made, if you like,
Yes.
or pruned in a way that will serve you know, the emancipation, not just physically, you know, it must be mental, spiritual, ultimately.
Yes.
And
yes.
so Ethiopia is the source, you know.
See.
So, you know, I mean, the fact that, as the IS said already, that Ethiopia is preserving much of the ancient traditions is so important that if you are just stuck on the TikTok culture, then you don't really know Wagwan, you know. But, you know, lo and behold, even TikTok can allow us, can become a channel,
Yes.
you know, to spark these conversations and to bring back this knowledge and to uncover again
Yes.
that has been hidden for so long, you know.
Yes, yes.
So critical education is important. And I mean, we are speaking through education because, like we are saying, in this age where everything seems to decay and it has been kind of contaminated, it's going to be important then to sift through, you know, separate the chaff from the wheat, you know,
exactly,
and to really emphasize the essential news, you know, the good news of great tidings that has been promised to us and which we are realizing with the Advent now. That's why we are Rastafari, you know, because we have seen the advent of the one that the world has been waiting for the longest time. So it's relevant to make that a starting point.
Yes.
You know, the life and times of Haile Selassie I. That way we are able to have a conversation that says, why is Ethiopia important and how far back we need to go even to go seek out.
Right,
you know.
right. This is really a new year. I feel it. With all the wisdom and knowledge that I got from you, is amazing. And my wish is for everyone, you know, to get to this clear-mindedness of consciousness of our Africanism, you know, and embrace it, you know. Yeah. There was something we spoke about offline, which was the 23rd of September, another very important date that I feel we can just quickly dive into before we conclude. Is that possible?
No problem.
Yes, I 23rd September. What do we call it? The Adam's calendar.
Adam's calendar.
There we go.
Basically, when I first heard about it, I was surprised, and then I looked and looked. Basically, what I've learned about it, it's basically they found out about it in Mpumalanga.
Okay.
It's a form of a pyramid, the oldest pyramid in the world, as they say. It dates from 75,000 years ago, and it has symbols about the calendar itself. So for me as an individual, when I look, the elder told I that since we have this the 11th of September to the 23rd of September, so only 12 days is the difference, basically. That's what he said to me. And then he told me that we shouldn't choose from the two because it's in a same month.
Yes.
And he told me that we only had that kind of debate if it was on March.
Right.
So right now we are lucky that it's still within the same month, and only the difference is 12 months, and we can only
12 days.
12 days.
Yes.
So only then we can really choose which one we prefer to use.
I get you. I get you.
You know, if I can come in there, because here's a question. Why does, people celebrate Good Friday?
Right.
Why does Good Friday come on different dates?
Exactly.
You see? So that now is an important question to ask, because it harks back to the question of 11, 23, which one is the correct one? And we don't really want to pull our hair and tear our garments trying to say the one is better than the other one. The important thing, the reason I'm asking this question is this. Good Friday can happen in late March or it can happen in early April.
Yeah, exactly.
Up to early April, almost up to the 14th of April.
Right.
You know. So that is, what makes that so is that it's the heavenly bodies that dictate. You see, the thing with a fixed calendar is that it's artificial by design. It's a man-made thing coming into cycles, and then you want to say, let me fix them because I can see the patterns. You know, one day you're going to be off somewhat. The thing to do is to look at the heavenly bodies. So what the eye is referring to as Adam's calendar is actually what traditionally we call Inzalo Yelanga, which is an actual plateau, a place in close to Barberton here, where if you know Stonehenge, Stonehenge in the north in England, it's a similar kind of formation. It's a formation made by man to mark the movement of the sun, because then when you are inside that thing, you can, at certain points, it's like the pyramids. At certain points, the light shines through certain channels in the pyramids. So those points that we talked about, the equinox and the solstices,
Right.
those are the times that we're marking to say, at a certain point, when we are standing at certain points within that circle of stones,
Right.
because that's what it is. It's a circle of stones that are aligned in a way that will tell us what time it is, basically.
Yes.
And the sun becomes a big marker because, you know, it dominates the day. The point then becomes, how do we tell equinoxes and solstices? These are the techs, you know, ancient technology that we used to be able to mark what time it is. Now, why are equinoxes important? Because they tell us that we are shifting phases from winter to summer or from summer to winter. So they are the kind of halfway points when the day is as long as the night. You get, you know, in winter, most your nights are much longer. You kind of, it sets much earlier, the sun, and it rises much later.
Exactly.
That means that the darkness stretches much longer.
Exactly.
So those days when it is the longest, the night is longest, is what we call the solstice. The day when the night and the day are just about the same length, that's why we call those equinoxes from equal, you know, that equi comes from there. Nox means night, so it's equal night.
Right.
So what I'm pointing out here is this. Good Friday is supposed to connect with the spring equinox, but also with the full moon. So actually, they mark it based on the first full moon after the spring equinox.
Okay.
You see, that's why it's going to shift every time. It's not going to be fixed.
Right.
It's not a 21st March thing or...
Right.
The same thing then should apply to this that we are talking about, being the spring equinox would mark the beginning of the year from a solar point of view, but we need to balance that with the moon, with the lunar energy.
Okay.
You see, because it's king and queen after all.
Yes.
And when the full moon happens around the spring equinox, that marks now the beginning of the year. But we are saying this thing often happens in September. So it could be on the 11th, it could be on the 23rd.
Okay.
It's not fixed per se.
Right,
but, you know, for cultural purposes of gathering and stuff like that, people tend to just fix it on one day. We still see in religions that work with the moon and the sun and the sighting of the moon, you know, to say, based on the new moon, that's when we start observing our fasting, and when it peaks, you know, those things are determined by the movement of the planets. So I'm saying that that's why we needed now places like Stonehenge and Inzalo Yelanga, which is in the south, and there's another one called Napta Playa in northern Sudan. They look exactly the same. But these are ancient technologies or ways of tracking time to be able to tell exactly
In what space we are.
in what phase of the year we are.
Exactly. So these two calendars now, when we look at the Ethiopian calendar and we look at the Adam's calendar, so you're trying to say that we are safe following these calendars because they are guided by nature's activities.
Absolutely.
Basically.
Absolutely. It's an astronomical thing in the sense that it is the movement of the planets and the stars.
Right.
And the sun, which is the main star in our planet.
I have a question in my head. So the Gregorian calendar, is it aligned with certain natural activities?
It is totally divorced by now from astronomical events because they've fixed everything, even the 1st of Jan, you see, which is where the problem is actually. Because how do you say on the 1st of Jan, greetings of the new season? It's not a new season.
There's now no natural activities.
Exactly.
To tell us
so
this is it.
Meaning we are not following natural order or natural law.
That's where the confusion comes in now.
There you go. Now the calendar has become artificial because its connection to the movement of the planets has been severed, you see.
I get it.
So it becomes problematic. But
Yes.
that's why we had to have megalithic structures like those, like the pyramids, like Napta Playa, like Inzalo Yelanga,
Right.
to be there permanently.
Right.
So that we can, if you don't believe it, you can go in and go check it out for yourself. The point there being, we can use it every day of the year.
As a reference.
As a reference. You know what I mean?
Yes.
To tell what time it is.
I was mentioning Limpopo. Is it a pyramid in Limpopo?
Yes, it's there in Limpopo.
So we have a trip that we need to take to Limpopo.
Oh, no doubt. We really need to start again.
Oh, can I make an adjustment? Not in Limpopo, Mpumalanga.
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 Right,
Yes,
right.
stay
Oh,
in
okay.
Mpumalanga.
And how old is this pyramid?
75,000 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a book written by a brother from here in South Africa called Michael Tellinger. Yes. Yeah, he's one of the leading voices, really, in terms of bringing back this knowledge. you know.
Okay.
And yes, that phrase of Adam's calendar is really what they use to speak to the space. We have an ancient name for it, as I say. We call it Inzalo Yelanga, which means birth of the sun.
Birth of the sun.
And is it not apt because it's in Mpumalanga? Mpumalanga means the coming out of the sun or the uprising.
Right.
So, and it's in the east, right? You know what I mean? How appropriate, you know?
See.
So those are important markers, you know? This is the knowledge then that I'm saying we need to bring into everyday awareness of the people, starting with the youth, you know, to say the cycles that we follow, you know. When you get this knowledge, it makes sense why even some of the religions are still holding on to those traditions
I
of
see.
sightings of the moon, you know.
Right,
and understanding why Good Friday has to happen on different dates, you know. You can see the contradiction. Why is December 25th fixed? But actually, when you come check it out, it goes back to the fact that around 25 December, that's your summer solstice or winter solstice, depending on which side of the planet you are, you know.
Okay.
So these things are coming out of Ethiopia with that understanding that they are based on natural law and natural order, you know. And
Yes.
what better order is there in terms of marking time than observing the movement of the heavenly bodies?
Amazing. We give thanks.
Blessed Lord.
I want to give thanks for coming through, sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us. And it looks like we can go on and on,
No
especially
doubt.
when it comes to our natural life and, you know, as Africans on this beautiful African continent,
man.
you know. So I do want to give thanks
That's it.
and let us continue, you know.
Blessed Lord.
See?
Blessed love, it's a real pleasure, you know. For me, it's like a homecoming, you know.
We give thanks.
You know, the IDEM, we've been in this frequency for forever. We've just not been in
Yes.
inter-present,
Yes, yes.
you know. So for me to come here and to be a part of this new experience on this new year, New Year's Day, is really a pleasure.
A happy New Year to you both. And Kutatash.
Kutatash.
Yes, on this beautiful 11th September
Yes,
2017, in the year of 2024.
there you go.
That's how we do it at Umoja Urban Culture. We give thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, like, and press the subscribe button. We give thanks, everybody. Blessings. Tune in again next time. Bless.